Hello everyone, in today's video I'm going to be canning beef stroganoff in my trusty Nesco canner. I'll be using the recipe from the all-new Ball Book of Canning and Preserving. I'm Rebecca from StockingMyPantry.com. So first I want to go over all of the ingredients, and for this recipe you need 2 pounds of boneless beef chuck trimmed and cut into 2-inch pieces. Now I'm using 4 pounds because I want to do 4 quarts, and this recipe makes either 2 quarts or 4 pints. So I'm doubling the recipe and I'm going to can 4 quarts. Okay, but I'm giving you the recipe as it's written in the book, and so that would be for 2 quarts or 4 pints. All right, so 2 pounds of the meat cut, and 1 cup sliced mushrooms, 1 cup chopped onion, 4 tablespoons tomato paste, 2 teaspoons salt, and you can use any salt you want as long as it's not iodized, 1 teaspoon ground black pepper, 4 tablespoons Worcestershire sauce, 2 teaspoons dried thyme, 2 teaspoons dried parsley, and 2 garlic cloves sliced. I'm going to be using this minced garlic in place of sliced garlic cloves. Alright, so the way that I'm going to do it is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to fill the jars with each of the ingredients. I'll tell you what they are as I go through them, and the way that to me the instructions in the book are a little bit more convoluted, using a big bowl and mixing certain things together and all that. I prefer just to pack the ingredients individually into the jars. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I should mention that I have just slightly more than 4 pounds, and by the way, my hands are clean, so I'm not worried about that. And I could weigh this, but I'm just going to distribute them as evenly as possible. And I'll move the bowl over here so hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing. And then I'll just go back through and even them out. It doesn't have to be precise, so I'm just eyeballing it. By the way, we can pack this down because we've got a lot of other ingredients to put into the jars. Okay, that's close enough. Let me go ahead and move this bowl out of the way. Okay, so the next thing is a cup of sliced mushrooms and a cup of chopped onion, and that would be divided between each, so that would be a half a cup each, and then 4 tablespoons of tomato paste, and then you put the seasonings in. I'm going to put the onions in, the seasonings in, and then finish with the mushrooms. And the reason is I have a little bit more mushrooms than it calls for. I'm going to pack them in if I can. If I can't pack them all in, that's okay. Obviously, this is a 1-inch headspace, so I don't want to exceed that, but otherwise, you know, I can fill it up as full as I want up to the 1-inch headspace. Also, the reason why I'm doing it this way is because I like to be able to pack it down, and I really don't like the tomato paste and the spices being at the top. So anyway, I'm going to put them in the middle instead. So that's just the way I'm doing it. Okay, so let's start off with a half a cup. Make sure I have this right. Yeah, a half a cup minced onions in each jar. And I have a little bit extra, so I'm just going to put the extra in. The next thing is to put 2 tablespoons of tomato paste in each, and I'm not going to measure this precisely. This jar has 6 ounces, and I've got 4 jars, so that would be slightly more than 2 tablespoons. And I'm not going to completely empty the jar, but okay. I just find tomato paste is really hard to measure precisely. It's just gooey. And anyway, so I'm just kind of eyeballing it again. All right, so I'm going to do a teaspoon of salt in each jar. And I'm using kosher salt, which is coarser than like canning salt, but the broth that I'm using is also going to be somewhat salty, so I'm not worried about not getting enough salt. So just going to do a teaspoon in each jar. And I didn't mention that you fill the jars with hot broth at the end. So that's the broth that I'm speaking of. Okay. Next is a half a teaspoon of black pepper per jar. All right. 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce in each jar. One teaspoon of dried thyme, and you want to use the thyme leaves, not the powdered. A teaspoon of parsley. And I didn't mention it, but it's probably pretty obvious. These are dried parsley flakes that it calls for. And then it would be a clove of sliced garlic per jar. I'm just going to put about a teaspoon in. And then finally, a half a cup of mushrooms per jar. And I'm not going to actually measure, I'm just going to fit in what I can. And you can pack it down, nothing wrong with that. Just don't go above an inch head space. This is one reason why I didn't want to put in the tomato paste and stuff at the top, because I wanted to be able to pack things down. Okay, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to fit them all in, but I'm using 8 ounces of sliced mushrooms, and that ended up being, I measured it out before I started the video, and that ended up being more like 2.5, 3 cups of mushrooms total, and I should have had 2 for this. So anyway, it's definitely very full. Okay, so the next thing that you do is you fill it with hot broth up to 1 inch of headspace. So I'm going to see, yeah, my broth is still hot. I just used bouillon, chicken bouillon, not chicken, beef bouillon. You could also use vegetable broth if you prefer. And with everything else in, you may not need much broth. I have way more than I need, I can already tell. But it's better to have more than enough ready. Okay, and you can see already I'm going to need some more in this, but I want to go ahead and debubble. I can definitely see the bubbles coming out, so that's good. Okay, now you're supposed to do 1 inch of head space, so I definitely need to put a little bit more broth in for each of these, except this one's good and this one's good. So a little bit more broth in these front ones. Okay, perfect. All right, so now we're going to wipe the rims, put the lids on, and get them into the canner. I definitely need to, it's always good to wipe the rims, but sometimes I'm messy, and I can literally see that I've gotten some stuff on the rims. So, I'm going to get them good and clean. Put the lids on and the rings fingertip tight, and then we'll get them into the canner. I'm going to put them into the canner. I'm actually going to put some of this leftover vinegar in. I'm going to put in 8 cups of hot water. Close the lid, turn it to the closed position, and I'm going to start off in the exhaust position, and then we'll get this canner going. By the way, the processing time for quarts is 90 minutes, for pints 75 minutes, so I'm going to be doing 90 minutes. Okay, I'm pressing high, putting in the time, which is 90 minutes. And pressing start. Okay, so this digital chase will go on until it heats up, and then an E10 will display. It will count down from E10 to E0, and at that point I will switch the valve to airtight. If you need more instructions on using the Nesco canner, I have videos on how to steam can in the Nesco, how to water bath can, and of course how to pressure can. So be sure to refer to those. I'll bring you back when everything's done. See you in a bit. So this is the finished product. I'll try to zoom in on it so you can see it. It looks and smells delicious. All of the jars sealed. There did appear to be a little bit of siphoning on one of the jars, but I'm planning to serve this for our lunch after church tomorrow on Sunday. I did want to tell you what the book says to do in terms of how to serve it, so let me go into that now. Okay, to serve, transfer the contents of quart or the liter jar to the saucepan and whisk in 2 tablespoons of flour until well combined. And obviously if you're doing pint jars, it would be 1 tablespoon of flour. Simmer over medium heat for 10 minutes, stirring often, remove from heat, and stir in a large spoonful of sour cream. So that's all the prep that I'll have to do tomorrow, is basically open it up, dump it into a pan, stir in flour or cornstarch or whatever thickener. You can use whatever thickener you want. If you prefer cornstarch or arrowroot powder, you can do that. And I'll serve it, I haven't decided yet, but I'll probably serve it over mashed potatoes or noodles, rice maybe, but probably mashed potatoes or noodles. So I'm looking forward to it. I also plan to serve it with my home canned lemon garlic green beans, which I have a video for that. And then I'm also going to serve it with some of my home canned nectarines for dessert. So anyway, I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would appreciate it if you would like the video, and if you haven't already done so, if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.